Okay, two videos. Video number 2. So I cut that one off. What are we going to talk about? Oh yeah, okay. So again, breaking bread, coming together, acceptance. St. Augustine, I think I've talked about this before. St. Augustine is the one who was quoted as saying, "Love the sinner, not the sin." In order to love the sinner, not the sin, you really have to put your shit aside. You can't, there's nothing else you can do. Because in order to love the sin, not the sinner, remember Jesus saying, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." It's basically the same thing. When you're faced with how people are treating you, when you're faced with how you're feeling because people are treating you poorly, you need to be bigger than that. You need to be stronger than that. You need to be, basically, you need to bring the love where you're feeling hate. And the American people right now, especially, and because I don't know a lot about Europe right now. I haven't really done a lot of research lately to see where Europe's going. But the American people, and even some of the Canadian people, when you look at some of the conservatives in my country, they're certainly stupid. And then, of course, you have Antifa, and Antifa is also just stupid. So you have a lot of stupid people who don't bring love. They don't bring friendship to them. I am going to tell you a quick story. I have a preference for white guys. I'm, a gay male. I've always been into white guys. One of the things that I finally came up with to understand this is that soul contracts are all I can attribute this to, because my first partner was white, and that was when I was 16, whatever. And then I just kept finding myself attracted to white guys. And there was this one contract with the soulmate. And I sat down in front of him. I had no interest in talking to him until I had a clairaudient experience, which means I heard something. So a voice told me that I wanted to talk to him. And I was like, no, I don't. So to speed this up, I ended up talking to him. Within, I think, 2 days to a week of that meeting, I had a vision. And the vision told me he was the one. And I was like, no, he's not. But Darren was Caucasian. And then I met my twin flame. Again, not something that I sought out. I did not go out going like, I need a white man. I literally was told I should be friends with this person, and I friended them on Facebook, and then we started talking, and then my crown chakra opened up, and it was like, what did my crown chakra? Oh yeah, I really love this guy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, literally, I'm conscious, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then when I met Mark and I, we were like literally within 3 feet of each other, 5 feet of each other, whatever. And that's when the vision hit, and I met my twin flame. I did not seek out Caucasian males, okay? This happens to be the person that I'm most attracted to. And I have tried sleeping with, there was a doctor who was half Polynesian, half Caucasian. I've tried a few times, and there's just not the same level of interest or sexual zhuzh as when I'm with Caucasian men. So I'm honest about this. I said my preference is for white guys. And the problem is that people come at me and they start accusing me of racism. And the last time I checked, racism is where you exclude an entire group of people from your life because you think that you're superior to them. My preference for white guys has absolutely nothing to do with superiority. Honestly, there are days now, because of my age and my singleness, where I wish I could sleep with, whomever I, wanted to. Like, if I could just go nut in everywhere, I'd be fine. I'd have settled down. I would have met someone that I would have settled with, and life would be a party. That's not the case. But here we are where people are like, oh my God, you're racist because you're only into white people. Okay, so when a gay man doesn't sleep with women, does that make him misogynist? When your parents are both the same ethnicity, does that make them racist? I mean, at what point does racism stop? Like, these people are literally, and you bring these questions up to them, you ask them, it's like, okay, so do you hate women? Because you don't sleep with women, so you must hate women. And they're like, that's not the same. Okay, so you're full-blooded, whatever ethnic background, and you somehow don't see your parents as racist? No, my parents aren't racist. Okay, so your parents who are both Asian or both black or both white or both Native American or whatever, they are together and they're the same ethnicity, but that's not racist to you because they're mom and dad. So mom and dad are perfect, and anyone else who doesn't fit this liberal agenda is now a bad person. And I had this person approach me, and he was like, it's very offensive, da da da. And I'm like, actually, I'm offended that you're offended, because most people don't care. There are people on the dating app I'm on that are Asian guys that are like, hey, we all have preferences, man. Like, get the fuck over yourselves. Stop the hate. And it's cool. It's like finally people are starting to talk about this. Now here's the point. We aren't sitting there saying, hey man, let's go for a beer and talk about it, or hey man, like, do you want to have coffee and talk about it? We're not doing the talking about it. I've talked about this before. The lack of communication between people is done. We are not breaking bread. We are not loving the sinner versus the sin. In order to love the sinner, it means literally you have to go and rise above your own bullshit. You have to put aside all of your belief system, which I found this funny little thing that I need to read more of. Robert Anton Wilson, please go read him. He calls the belief system BS, bullshit, because it is BS. Whatever and whichever way you see yourself is bullshit, because technically the self is true, but the ego is false. Now, as I've said in other videos, the ego is who you are. And as I just explained about my meeting, my soul contracts, it wasn't my consciousness, therefore it was not my ego that brought us together, it was my soul. So, anyways, here's the quick thing. So in order to love the sinner, not the sin, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do, you literally have to put aside what you feel is right, what you feel is justified, what you feel is true, and simply just accept someone for not being all of these things here, for not being all of the things that you believe they need to be. That is the purest essence of Christianity, is to simply say to someone, I love you, and not see them for their faults, not see them for their darkness, not see them for whatever you want to see them for. Because remember, every time you see someone at fault, you're projecting your own insecurities, your own faults, your own problems onto them, so it's only making things greater, bigger, and more, apparent. And that's not what we're doing anymore. We're not doing that. We're just going like, oh, you're a fascist. Okay, well, if you're calling someone a fascist, then you definitely have issues with truth, marginalization, picking on people, or you just feel all of those things have been done to you, so you're lashing out at other people. And this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing things. It's like, I would rather sit down with a white supremacist and say, hey, what is the deal? And break bread and be like, look, let's talk about this. I'll share a little quick story. When I was in the States growing up, Montel Williams, I think it was. Yeah, it was Montel Williams. He used to have a Jerry Springer kind of level show, and I think it was Montel Williams. Anyways, he would have the white supremacists, and then there was a black group, and I used to call them black abolitionists, but I don't know if that's the right term. But these were black people that, because of slavery, they wanted to kill all white people. That was their whole entire belief system. And I was like, now that I'm finally talking about this, I'm realizing it's probably a little bit off-center, because it probably was like made for TV drama. But it scared the shit out of me, because I didn't do anything to hurt anyone. I was not guilty of, forefather problem. Secondly, I was a Canadian in America, and none of my family's all immigrants, Germany, Ireland, all that shit. None of my family had anything to do with the slave trade, and yet there's this person on TV saying that because of the color of my skin, I should die because their people were enslaved. Never mind the fact that Africans enslaved Africa first, and the Spanish were a big, big part of that. Not white people, Spanish people. The Spanish were the first to start the slave trade through Africa. So, we have a history that we should be looking for, and we're not looking for it because we just want to blame whoever we know is directly associated to our pain. And that's what I'm talking about, is that whatever your pain is, love the sinner, not the sin. Put your pain aside, put your difference aside, put you aside, and learn who the person beside you is, because that's where you want to learn what the soul is. Yes, you're going to see their baggage. Yes, you're going to see their pain. But the more and more you focus on the purity of yourself by putting aside your belief system, your bullshit, and seeing somebody truly for who they are, the deeper and faster you're actually going to see people for the beauty and the magnificence that they are. I struggle with this daily, but it is something that I struggle with because I'm working on it. I am trying every day to get better, stronger, faster. Because I know that this is how we're supposed to be. I know that this is what we're supposed to be, because this is what we've been shown by people above us. In other words, people who have come before us have figured this out, have realized this, and have had massive spiritual experiences based on this truth. Jesus alone for saying, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do," which means that he recognizes that there is the unconscious mind and the conscious mind, and that the unconscious mind is what's causing people to crucify him, because the light that he brings, there was another 10:10, the light that he brings is too much for their social conditioning, so they can't understand why he would be God, why he would be a genius, so they attack him, and that's what Americans do to each other, and that's what we're doing all across the board, is that we're doing, as I said before, we're doing the Frankenstein. We're seeing a monster where there isn't one, and we're killing everybody, or we're attacking people, trying to hurt them, because we're basically projecting our hurt onto them. So that's what my rap is, but just remember this. Love the sinner, not the sin. Don't go attacking people. Don't go getting triggered by people. And again, hard work. I'm still working on it. Just yesterday, I was talking to my friend Dylan in Toronto, and I was talking about the guy that I mentioned about how he called me a racist for my preference. And Dylan was saying stuff, and I was triggered, and then I'm like, oh my God, I've got to slow down. And I kind of walked away from the conversation, just give myself a few minutes. And then I came back, and Dylan and I started talking, and I was still a little bit more high emotion, but I was like, look, I don't know what you're saying, so explain this to me. So I sat there, I paused, I put my shit aside, and I listened. I put the sinner aside, and I just listened. And that's what we need to start doing again, is we're not doing now, is we're not listening, we're not communicating, we're not sitting down with each other and openly saying, hey, can you clarify something for me? Can you help me understand? We're just literally saying, he's a fascist, this is a bad person, that's a bad person, everybody's bad. If you're not in my little version of reality, you're a horrible person. And that's not a way to live, and that's not a way to stop the divisions that are happening. It's such a base level of reality, which is part of the anti-queer problem, because queers are so obsessed with who's sleeping with who, that they're stuck in this base mentality. They're not growing into the spiritual beings that they're supposed to be, which are, far beyond that, because they're marginalized and they have so many wounds that they don't want to focus on and deal with. So anyways, here we go. So thanks for watching.